In this today's session, I am going to discuss with you few insights about theories of development. This session's learning goals are basically to introduce you the concept of theory, then this in your syllabus, following theories have been given. And out of that, in this specific lecture, I'll be discussing about psychoanalytic theories of human development. So let's focus on the syllabus part where you have to focus. Since theories are an important part of your studies, and this is the crux of developmental psychology, right? So first, let's see. First is psychoanalytic theories, then cognitive theories, next is behavioral and social cognitive theories, then ethological theory, ecological theory, and last is eclectic theoretical orientation. So this will be the learning goals of next 2 3 lectures. Now, when we talk about theory, I remember this saying of Kurt Lewin. He was a great American social psychologist of 20th century. He has said there is nothing quite so practical as a good theory. So basically, when we talk about a theory, theory is an interrelated, coherent set of ideas that help you to explain a specific phenomena and facilitate predictions. Well, it may suggest hypotheses which are quite specific so that the hypothesis, assertions, and predictions can be tested. For example, a theory specifically talks about human development, right? So, in that theory, it tests all hypothesis predictions about by using scientific methods. Now, when we come to the psychoanalytic theory of human development, then you need to know the contribution of Sir Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is the most famous person in the history of psychology. I mean, even a person who has not studied psychology as a discipline, that person would also be knowing about Sigmund Freud because he has given so much of contribution, and with its lasting impact, the psychoanalytic theory would be quite interesting to study. Sigmund Freud has talked about many important points. The first is the concept that the initial years of human development. He specifically highlighted the importance of initial early years of development, and he has reiterated the famous saying that the child is the father of man. So basically, how the childhood growth period impacts us our future personality, that we'll see. Freud talked about following psychosexual stages. You can look in this slide. First stage of psychosexual development is oral stage. It starts from birth till 18 months. And the important area of focus is the pleasure center is on mouth, that is sucking, biting, chewing. Now when I say pleasure center, the Freud, the specific contribution or specific theoretical highlight of Freud that he has talked about sensual nature of development. So whenever we come to the next stage, the center of pleasure gets changed. Now when we Come to the anal stage, which starts from 18 to till 36 months. The pleasure specifically focuses on the bowel and bladder elimination, right? So it helps you to cope with the demands for control. Third psychosexual stage of Freud's theory is phallic stage. It starts from 3 and lasts till 6 years. Here, the pleasure zone is the genitals, and the coping with it helps you to cope with your incestuous sexual feelings. This is quite controversial concept about Oedipus complex and Electra complex. I'll discuss this concept later when we'll have a separate classroom session on this theory. Next part is latency that starts from 6 till puberty. In this, we Freud has talked about dormant sexual feelings, and the child identifies with the parent. So it develops the gender identity concept. And last important fifth stage of Freud's theory is genital. So it from puberty onwards. So in this specific focus is maturation of sexual interest. So this oral, anal, phallic, latency, genital, all these stages contributes to the psychosexual nature of development. Important thing about Sigmund Freud, or let's say psychoanalytic approach, is it primarily talks about the unconscious nature of human development. It says that psychoanalytic theories describe development as primarily unconscious, and they are heavily colored by emotion. Psychoanalytic theories emphasize that behavior is merely a surface characteristic, and that a true understanding of development requires analyzing the symbolic meanings of behavior and the deep inner working of the mind. When we say about Freud's contribution, Freud's theory has been significantly revised by a number of psychoanalytic theories. Many of today's psychoanalytic theories maintain that Freud overemphasized sexual instincts. They place more emphasis, present theories place more emphasis on cultural experiences as determinants of an individual development. Well, unconscious thought remains a central theme, but conscious thoughts play a greater role than what Freud envisioned. So next we'll see about one of the most influential revisionist of Freud's idea was Erik Erikson. Erik Erikson recognized Freud's contribution but believed that Freud misjudged some important dimensions of human development. For one thing, Erikson said we develop in psychosocial stages rather than in psychosexual stages, as Freud maintained. According to Freud, the primary motivation for human development is sexual in nature, and well, according to Erikson, it is a social and reflect a desire to affiliate with the people. According to Freud, our basic personality is shaped during the first 5 years of life. According to Erickson, development change occurs throughout the lifespan. Thus, in terms of the early versus later experience issue, we can check these things. Freud viewed early experience as being far more important than later experiences, whereas Erikson emphasized that the importance of both early and later experiences. Now, when we look at the Erikson's theory, you will find there are almost 8 stages of development. At each stage, a unique developmental task confronts individual with a crisis that must be resolved. In first stage, we see the crisis of trust versus mistrust, then autonomy versus shame and doubt, then initiative versus guilt. Next is industry versus inferiority. And these four early crises, then we can even check with the year. First is infant, then toddler, then preschooler, and then grade schooler. Next crisis is identity versus role confusion. Then intimacy versus isolation. Then generativity versus stagnation. And last is integrity versus despair. So we face all this psychosocial crisis, and how you deal with this crisis shapes you as a person, shapes your development. Now, if you talk about each crisis, trust versus mistrust is Erikson's first psychosocial stage, which is experienced in the first year of life. The development of trust during infancy sets the stage for a lifelong expectation that the world will be good and pleasant place to live. Then autonomy versus shame and doubt, initiative versus guilt. When you come to the industry versus inferiority, it is Erikson's four developmental stage. Well, it occurs during elementary school years. Children now need to direct their energy toward mastering knowledge and intellectual skills. The negative outcome is that the child may develop a sense of inferiority, that is, feeling of incompetent and unproductive. During the adolescent years, we face the conflict of identity versus confusion. Next, intimacy versus isolation is sixth developmental stage. And next is generativity versus stagnation. And last is integrity versus display. When we talk about the contribution of these both theories, well, contribution of psychoanalytic theories include an emphasis on a developmental framework, family relationships, and unconscious aspects of mind. Criticisms include a lack of scientific support, too much emphasis on sexual underpinnings, and an image of people that is negative. When I talk about online resources and additional activities, recently this year, one web series, or you can say TV series, released by Netflix uh, on the life of Freud. First part is available on Netflix. So if you wish, and if you are interested to know more about Sigmund Freud's life, it's kind of fictional, but still a lot of relevance you can make from this web series. It's in English, uh, kind of a thriller web series. So if you wish, you are more, I mean, I'll suggest you to go for it. Next is one more question that you can think about it is you can compare and contrast both theories. I mean, just compare what is psychosocial versus psychosexual. Discuss with this your friends, your classmates. Next, you follow this link. It is very useful.